Council meeting taking place on Wednesday, the 21st of September 2022. This meeting is being broadcast live to our YouTube channel. Before we commence with today's formal business, could I ask everyone in the chambers to switch off or make silent their mobile phones, please? Before we move to the business on the agenda, I would like to remind you of the housekeeping rules for the meeting. As in all of our previous council meetings, any requests to speak must be made using your voting handset. Once invited to speak, please stand up and face forward and switch on the closest microphone to you. If you encounter any problems with your voting handset, please raise your handset in the air and a member of the committee services team will assist. Can I ask all of those attending the meeting to be COVID considerate? Should anyone wish to socially distance or wear a face covering, they still can, as a matter of personal choice. Finally, I would like to extend my warm welcome to the members of the public attending the meeting. You are very welcome to attend and observe proceedings. However, I request politely that you do not disrupt the meeting. Colleagues, people from across County Durham joined the nation and others across the world to express their deep sadness and sorrow during the national period of mourning for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II following her passing. I wrote to His Majesty King Charles III on behalf of the people of County Durham to convey our most sincere condolence to His Majesty and members of the royal family on their great loss of Her Majesty. Members, we have an opportunity to express their condolence during the motion of condolence later in the meeting. It is also with great sadness to formally report the deaths of former Councillor and Honorary Alderman David Hodgson and Terry Richardson. David represented the Crook Hall ward on Derwenside District Council between 1983 and 1995. And the Delves Lane Division on Durham County Council between 1985 and 2005. Terry represented the Ledgate Ward on Derwenside District Council between 1991 and 2003. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like us all to stand for a moment's silence for Her Majesty the Queen and our former councillor colleagues. Thank you. Item 1, presentation to Honorary Alderman. Ladies and gentlemen, at our last meeting, the Council unanimously agreed to confer the title of Honorary Alderman to our former Durham County Councillor and Sedgefield Borough Councillor, Kevin Thompson. Kevin served the Middleston Ward on Sedgefield Borough Council for 6 years from 2003 to 2009. He was elected to Durham County Council in 2008, where he served the Spennymoor Division for 14 years to 2021, giving a total of 20 years eminent service to the Council and his community. Kevin, can I invite you to join me on the dais, please? you. Item 2, minutes. Can I have a mover?
I'd like to move the minutes.
And a seconder?
Second them, Madam Chair.
To confirm the minutes of the ordinary and extraordinary meeting held on the 20th of July 2022, are these minutes agreed? Item 3, declaration of interest. Does any member wish to declare an interest in relation to any item of business on the agenda? Item 4, I have no announcements to make at today's meeting. Thank you. Item 5, Leader's Report. Can I invite the Leader of the Council to present her report, please?
Thanks, Chair. We have all been deeply saddened by the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, a sentiment that is shared by residents across our county. As Britain's longest-serving monarch, the Queen demonstrated remarkable commitment to her country. The mood of the nation and our communities here in County Durham during the period of mourning has clearly reflected the influence she had on all of our lives. As the local authority, we have had a key role to play regionally in recent events. This has included supporting the proclamation of the new King by the High Sheriff for County Durham in Durham Marketplace and arranging a local proclamation in the Council Chamber. We also invited people to gather in the marketplace on Sunday to join us in marking the national moment of reflection. Our teams have supported residents wishing to pay their respects by providing books of condolence and dedicated locations for the laying of floral tributes. I'd like to pass on my thanks to all those staff who have been involved in this work. I'll save my message of condolence for the motion later in the agenda, but would like to make members aware that the Book of Condolence in the Durham Room will remain open until the end of today.
Item 6, petitions. No petitions have been received for today's meeting. Item number 7, report from the Cabinet. Can I ask the Leader of the Council to present the report?
Chair, present the report as written.
No questions have been submitted, so can I ask the Council to note the report? Item 8, Local Boundary Commission Review. Can I ask the Head of Legal and Democratic Services to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Members will be aware that the Local Government Boundary Commission are conducting a review of the Council which will look to determine the total number of councillors to be elected to the Council, the boundaries of future electoral divisions, the number of councillors within those divisions and the name of them. This report relates only to the number of councillors or council size, and work in relation to the divisions will come later in the year. The report sets out that the purpose of the review is to seek to achieve electoral equality across the county, and paragraph 10 of the report refers to some of the greatest variances within the county. At Appendix 2 to the report is a document that was prepared by the Boundary Commission and shared with all members at the start of earlier on in the year. And Appendix 2 within that document lists the variances by division. And I should just highlight that at paragraph 17 of that appendix, the document refers to there being 63 rather than 126 councillors. We have highlighted that to the Boundary Commission and they've confirmed it is a typo. They are working on a basis of 126 councillors across 63 divisions. The report also sets out the 3 areas that the Boundary Commission will look at and consider as part of the review of council size. We need to ensure that the council is not so small that it can't discharge its statutory duties, but is not too large to function effectively. Where councils have fewer than 35 or more than 85 councillors, the Boundary Commission will expect to see particularly strong data in support. There is no strict mathematical formula applied by the Boundary Commission, but they will look at similar-sized councils to identify expected ranges for the number of councillors and councillor-to-elector ratios. In order to prepare the submission on council size, we established a member working group which comprises group leaders, the chair of Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Management Board, or their representatives. And that group has been supported by officers from planning, research and intelligence and democratic services in collating the data and looking at the options. The group asked us to look at 3 options based on 126, 85 and 98 councillors, and the details are summarised at paragraph 21 to the report. The working group are recommending a submission based on 98 councillors, and the report explains why 85 is considered by the group to be too small, whilst 126 members might be preferable, but is likely to be unacceptable to the Boundary Commission. The group have recognised that in recommending the draft proposals, political groups and individual members of the council may have alternative views and proposals. However, it's important that the council seeks to agree a realistic submission which informs its future rather than have an arbitrary figure imposed by the Boundary Commission. And there is an opportunity for groups and individual members to present their own submissions should they wish to. The draft submission, attached at Appendix 3, seeks to reflect the nature, geography, demographics and needs of the council and county, and has also been informed by responses received in relation to an all-member survey. The submission must be submitted to the Boundary Commission by the 4th of October, and we anticipate receiving the Boundary Commission's recommendation in respect of council size mid to late November. In addition to the council size template, the council is required to submit data and information in relation to electoral forecasting, parish electoral arrangements, and the forecast of electoral property and count data as at 2028, as well as other information in relation to polling districts and places, community governance reviews, and key stakeholders. As the information and data has been collated, copies have been made available to the working group and left in group rooms in order for members to review. And it's been updated throughout the summer in response to representations received from members. The majority of those representations have mainly related to the housing forecast data, and at paragraph 27 of the report, we've set out the guidance that the Boundary Commission provides in relation to housing forecasts. It's important to note that forecasts can only include houses that are projected to have been built by 2028. So there's an example in the report at paragraph 28 as to what that means for a development such as Sniperley. The data in the report is based on forecast data up to April 2022 on the basis that housing trajectories are updated annually in line with the financial year. However, since the report has been published, we have been asked to update the data to August 2022 so that the most up-to-date data that we have is provided to the Boundary Commission. And subject to council approval today, that data will be updated accordingly prior to submission. The next meeting of the working group is on the 28th of September, and it's proposed that they will agree the final submission taking account of that revised data, as well as a final edit to address any typos and inconsistencies of drafting, and also to reflect any feedback received from the Boundary Commission. Once the submission has been put in by the 4th of October, work will commence on warding patterns, and when we've received the Boundary Commission's recommendation, as I say, mid to late November, we'll have further engagement with all members to understand what that recommendation means for your electoral divisions and your local areas. Chair, the recommendations are at paragraph 5 to consider and agree the submission. and delegate authority to myself in consultation with the member working group to finalise the submission, making those changes that I've highlighted so that it can be submitted to the Boundary Commission in time for the 4th of October deadline.
Can I have a mover?
Thanks, Chair. The Local Government Boundary Commission review presents an opportunity for the Council to reflect on how it operates currently and consider how it could operate in the future. It is 10 years since the Boundary Commission last conducted a review of council size, and therefore this review, which primarily seeks to address the electoral imbalance across 20 out of the 63 electoral divisions, is timely. It is understood that Durham is one of a number of councils in the North East currently being reviewed. The member working group are aware of the demands on councillors' time under the current arrangements. Those who responded to the member survey all commented that the hours worked are well in excess of 16 hours a week, and that as councillors we rarely get a day off. It could therefore be argued that the number of councillors across County Durham should at least stay the same, if not increase. However, the group acknowledged that maintaining the status quo or increasing the number of councillors is likely to be unacceptable to the Boundary Commission. As has been explained, the council is now an outlier in terms of the number of councillors, and recent reviews of similar authorities has resulted in recommendations on council sizes of less than 100 councillors. The group consider that it is better for the council to seek to influence and shape the proposals in respect of County Durham rather than have arrangements simply imposed. The draft proposal therefore represents a pragmatic approach which seeks to balance the aims of the review against the needs of the residents of County Durham. In seeking to agree a consensus, the group has had to compromise. Therefore, I would encourage individual political groups and/or councillors to engage with the process and submit their own proposals to the Commission. The group will continue to work with officers to finalise the response as outlined by the Head of Legal and Democratic Services. Once the response has been submitted to the Boundary Commission, the group will begin working on the second phase of the review relating to warding patterns. Again, I would encourage all members to engage in that process at the appropriate time. I'd like to thank all of the officers who have been involved in preparing the Council submission and supported the member working group. And with that, Chair, I move the recommendation.
And seconder?
Thank you, Chair. I support the approach taken by the member working group in seeking to agree a pragmatic response to the review. In preparing the response, the group did consider the approaches taken by other councils, which in some cases have relied heavily on significant delegation to officers in order to achieve a reduction in council size. While some delegation to officers is undoubtedly necessary and appropriate, the group was keen to ensure that any proposals in council size do not inadvertently create a democratic deficit. I note the rationale for including housing data protection up to 30th of April 2022, but consider it preferable that data up to 31st of August 2022 is submitted. While the projections may not change significantly, it is important that members can have confidence that the most up-to-date data is used. The working group will be meeting shortly to agree the approach in relation to warding patterns. Once the Boundary Commission have made their recommendation in relation to council size in November, we will be in a position to engage with all members on warding patterns. Throughout the process to date, many of the questions that have been asked relate to this stage of the review. I would therefore encourage all members to take the time to understand, engage with and help shape the process. I would like to add my thanks to the officers and all those involved in preparing the response. And with that, Chair, I second the recommendations.
Thank you. Do any members have any questions on the report? Councillor Boyce.
Yeah, Chair, just another typo on page 50, Appendix 1. It says there's total number of divisions 64, and it should be 63. I just don't know if that has any bearing or would have any bearing on when we do our submissions, but it does say 64 divisions, but above that it says 63.
Yeah, I think we've, as I explained, addressed the 63 rather than 126. I think the Boundary Commission did acknowledge it's a typo. They have confirmed they're working on a basis of current size of 126 across 63.
Yeah, we didn't mention that second typo where it says total.
I didn't know, but it's the same. It's the same principle. The Boundary Commission have confirmed they're working on 126 across 63.
Nobody else registered. Does the Council agree the recommendations detailed in the report? Item 9, Treasury Management Outturn Report. Can I ask the Corporate Director of Resources to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. This report provides an overview of our Treasury management activity last year and the position as at the 31st of March 2022 for the Council's borrowings and investments. Consideration of this report meets the requirements of the Prudential Code, and the report includes details of our performance against the Treasury management policy and strategy and the support and prudential indicators that the County Council agreed as part of its 21-22 budget setting in February 21. Members may recall that the half-year position was considered by the County Council in December 21. The table of paragraph 14 provides a summary of our overall Treasury management position. Members will see that at the 31st of March this year we had total debt outstanding of 418 million and total cash investments of 328 million. Our net debt position therefore at the 31st of March was £90 million. Comparison figures at the 31st of March 21 are provided in the table, and members will see that whilst our overall net position at the year end was broadly the same as the beginning of the year, our external borrowing and our external cash investments were around £55 million higher than at the beginning of the year. The Council's borrowing activity during the year is detailed in sections 16 to 20, and last year we took out new borrowing totalling £55 million. There were no maturity loans that expired in the year, but principal repayments totalling £447,000 were paid on annuity loans in 2021-22. The average rate of interest paid on our external debt is 3.25% currently, which is 0.18 percentage points lower than the position the previous year. In paragraphs 21 and 22, there's an overview of our external debt and long-term liabilities held by the Council, and these relate principally to long-term PFI liabilities and finance leases, most notably for vehicle leasing. There's an overview of our investment activity set out at sections 23 to 29 of the report, and the table of paragraph 24 provides a breakdown of the institutions, the length of investments and the interest rate secured on those investments as at the 31st of March. All investments undertaken in the year and held at the year end remain in line with our Treasury management strategy and associated policies. In line with the requirements of the Prudential Code, from paragraph 30 onwards, the report sets out details of our performance against the various Treasury management and prudential indicators, including details of our capital expenditure and financing of our capital expenditure in 21-22 and our capital financing requirement to the 31st of March 22. I appreciate this quite a technical report, and but the Council remains in a very strong position in terms of its Treasury management activity, and members can take comfort from the fact that the Council has continued to fully comply with the Treasury management strategy and the policies that the Council has agreed, and has and will continue to meet all of these requirements of the Prudential Code. The recommendations, Chair, are for Council to note the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Richard Bell, Deputy Leader and Portfolio Holder for Finance, to speak on this report?
Thank you, Chair. In moving that we note this report, I would like to thank the officers for this comprehensive update on our Treasury management activity last year and for the information setting out our position as of 31st of March this year, and to ask members to note that the Council has fully complied with all the requirements of our Treasury management policy and strategy. Carefully managing our cash flows, external borrowing and investments, and maintaining compliance with the relevant codes of practice in line with our prudential framework is fundamental to delivering on our fiduciary responsibilities for public money. Treasury management is an important area of activity. I know we have an experienced finance team that fulfills all the necessary requirements expertly, and that the team are constantly reviewing our position. And with that, Chair, I would like to move that the Council notes this report.
Do any members have any questions? Can I ask the Council to note the report, please? Item number 10, Corporate Parent Panel Annual Report. Can I invite Councillor Mamie Simmons, Chair of the Corporate Parent Panel, to present the annual report, please?
Thank you, Chair. I am Councillor Mamie Simmons, elected member for the Framilgate Moor and Newton Hall Division and Chair of the Corporate Parenting Panel. I'm here today to present the Corporate Parenting Panel Annual Report for information, following endorsement at Cabinet on the 14th of September. Firstly, I would like to thank officers from the Corporate Parenting Panel, along with all of the young people who made the annual report possible. The annual report covers the period April 2021 to March 2022. I won't go through the annual report, but think you will all agree that there's a wide range of work taking place across the board to support the children and young people in our care, as well as our care leavers. I would like to allude to some of the 2021-22 achievements we are particularly proud of, including college bus pass deductions no longer being taken from care-experienced young people's bursaries at New College Durham. In addition, all care-experienced young people in County Durham who are in years 12 and 13 have been awarded an all-time top-up bus pass to use anytime, not just when they're going to college. Further discussions around transport are continuing into 22-23, as this continues to be a challenge, particularly for our care leavers. Another achievement is the Art Stops initiative, which has been hugely successful and has helped to increase positive images and reduce stigma of care-experienced young people, with their artwork and designs being displayed on bus stops across the county. Although the recent Ofsted inspection fell outside of the annual report's timeframes, the results were certainly an achievement, with us being granted as good overall, with the impact of leaders on social work practice being outstanding. In addition, Ofsted noted our corporate parenting strategy being noted and as ambitious. Work is continuing to address the 22-23 priorities identified in the annual report, which include personalised care, staff in children's home and foster carers, and family time. And I look forward to providing a progress update in the next annual report. Throughout the year, we continue to meet with young people from the Children in Care Council, who hold us to account on the progress we are making against these priorities, and rightly so. Again, I would like to thank everyone involved with the work of the Corporate Parenting Panel, and with that, present the Corporate Parenting Panel Annual Report for 21-22. Thank you.
Thank you. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Luke, who would like to speak to the report. Luke sits on the Corporate Parent Panel Board and is part of the Children in Care Council Investing in Children.
Thank you, Chair. I am a member of the Children Care Council and hold one of the cooperative positions on the Corporate Parent Panel. I've been able to get involved with the Corporate Parent Panel through years with Children Care Council. I'm here today to say a few words about how young people contribute to and influence the work that takes place across the service to improve outcomes for young people like myself who are care experienced. I love the quote on the front of the annual report, "Children are like boats, and they just need a little bit of guidance to get to the right path," which is so true. And the CPP helps to promote that we are more than children in care, and we are young people with a range of skills, abilities and talents. To support this service, leads now share proud moments and at each CPP meeting to showcase some of our achievements, no matter how big or small. One of the key things discussed this year has been the use of language and the importance of using words and phrases that young people are familiar with and, more importantly, that they understand. Language is personal to each young person, and in response to discussions we've had, their care plan now reflects to their preferences. I am looking forward to the proposed development of a young people's scrutiny panel where young people would ask questions, review services and make recommendations for improvements, and I would encourage young people to get involved in this. Across the years, lots of work that has been done, but there is still lots to do. But I am confident that young people are being listened to and our ideas are being actioned. I would like to thank all elected members for being in our corporate parent panel. I've met some great people and they're definitely going to help me along my career and journey. I'd also like to thank everyone for the opportunity to attend today and get involved in the work to make positive changes for young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Luke. Do any members have any questions on the report? Councillor Gunn?
Thank you, Chair. I was going to say, follow that. I'm not sure that anything I say after Luke's presentation there will particularly add, because my comments are about what's in that report that's important. And there's so much to read in it. And I'm sure all councillors have actually read it and they've found it interesting and informative. But of everything contained in it, there's a really clear message that the voice of children and young people is absolutely crucial. So we can have policies and strategies about looked after children, children looked after, but without the voice of those children and young people who've experienced it, who have lived it, who know it, and they know every bit of it. Without that, then we miss the most crucial part of the service that we provide. So the Children in Care Council, thank you, Luke, very much for that. The Children in Care Council, supported by Investing in Children, they are the people who actually are confident and committed as a voice to what the service actually does in our council. So I thank you so much, Luke, today. You've been absolutely brilliant and extremely confident. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does the council note the report? Can I, number 11, Overview and Scrutiny Annual Report. Can I invite Councillor Craig Martin, Chair of the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Management Board, to present the annual report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Craig Martin, Councillor for North Lodge and Chelsea Street. I'm very pleased to present to the Council the Scrutiny Annual Report for 21-22. This report set out some of the work we have undertaken in the past year. As Chair of the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Management Board, it has been my privilege to steer the work of the scrutiny function. I have encouraged an open and transparent approach, and we are continuing to develop our input into policy development. I want all Overview and Scrutiny members to be involved to ensure scrutiny is effective. We continue to implement the scrutiny process in accordance with the 4 principles of effective scrutiny: to provide constructive, critical, friend challenge, to amplify the voices and concerns of the public, to be led by independent-minded people who take responsibility for their role, to drive improvement in public services. Our annual report reflects these 4 principles which underpin all the work we do. I would like to give you some examples of the work we have covered. The Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Management Board, led by myself and Councillor Chris Lyons, scrutinised the Cabinet's MTFP proposals, and our comments were included in the final budget report to the Council. This is a significant role of responsibility for the Board. The Adults, Wellbeing and Health OSC, led by Councillor Patricia Joplin and Councillor Rochelle Charlton-Lane, has continued to oversee the work undertaken by the Council and partners in respect of COVID-19 pandemic, service restoration with particular emphasis on access to GP services, NHS dentistry, service availability and winter preparedness. The committee has also examined the establishment of the integrated care system and its role in taking over from the clinical commissioning groups, as well as continued oversight of the Shotley Bridge Hospital project. Children and Young People OSC, chaired by Councillor Chris Hood and Councillor James Coslett, has scrutinised child and adolescent mental health services and children and young people's mental health and emotional well-being. These important issues continue to be a focus of the committee in 22-23. The committee has provided comment on the new SEND strategy and Growing Up in County Durham, a new children, young people and families strategy. The Economy and Enterprise OSC, chaired by Councillor Bill Moist and Councillor Andrew Jackson, has considered the development of the key strategic employment sites across the county and the number and quality of jobs delivered. They have also considered how change has been managed and the Council's pivotal role in shaping planning and development across our towns and villages through the Towns and Villages programme and the further development of master plans in the county. The committee has also provided comments as part of the big e-conversation to help develop the inclusive economic strategy and will continue to monitor the development and delivery of this strategy as part of its 22-23 work programme. The Environment and Sustainable Communities OSC, chaired by Councillor Bev Colt and Councillor Jonathan Elmer, has carried out a review to consider whether DCC should declare an ecological emergency. The recommendations of the committee were incorporated into a report to Cabinet in April 22. The committee has given particular focus to the Climate Emergency Response Plan, and this focus continues. The committee has also provided comments on the Leisure Transformation Programme and the draft Physical Activity Strategic Framework. The Safer and Stronger Communities OSC, chaired by Councillor Joyce Charlton and Councillor Phil Heavystide, has provided comment on the Safe Durham Partnership Plan and the County Durham and Darlington Fire and Rescue Services Community Risk Management Plan. I would like to give my thanks to members of the Overview and Scrutiny Committees, the chairs, vice chairs, co-optees, and the scrutiny team especially for their continued hard work throughout the year. Chair, this is a brief overview of some of the work Scrutiny has been involved in over the last year, and there is more detail in the report which I now present to you. I ask members to accept the report, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Do any members have any questions on the report? Councillor Crute.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Councillor Martin. It is a sound report, and I think it's appropriate to thank scrutiny officers for their hard work in pulling all the details together in this one document. I'd like to refer to the function of scrutiny as it's defined in the report itself. And although there are a number of separate strands to scrutiny, its main function, its traditional role is to hold the executive to account. With that in mind, I was a little bit concerned earlier this year when the chair of the management board asked each of the individual thematic committees to offer up services for cuts as part of the MTFP process. I've made our position clear. We don't sit on scrutiny committees to do the work of Cabinet. Cabinet members are appointed to come up with proposals and to make decisions. It's scrutiny's role to scrutinise. So I would like the chair of the management board to give us a little bit more insight into the reasoning behind his request for scrutiny to be involved in this process. And I'd like him also to tell us which of those scrutiny committees have agreed to go along with his request and which of those have refused to do so. And I think this is important because we do need a consistent approach to scrutiny. It doesn't serve anybody any good if we have a disjointed approach where one scrutiny committee is doing one thing and another scrutiny committee
is doing completely the opposite. And it may be appropriate for members of individual, or chairs, sorry, of individual scrutiny committees to make their comments clear as well. And I think it's important we get this right, because otherwise this could be seen as a first step to turning the governance arrangements of this council on its head and thereby blurring the lines of accountability. I think that's a dangerous step forward and something that really should be resisted. So I'd be grateful for the thoughts of the Chairman of the Management Board on that point, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Craig Martin, would you like to respond to that, please?
Thank you, Councillor Croot, for your question. So I see my job is to open up processes and empower the voices of members. So, and to me, part of that is developing policy. To me, scrutiny should not just be, you're right, it is an important function in terms of being a critical friend and holding the executive to account. But equally, and if not more important, as part of the terms and references, and the terms and references of scrutiny that have been within this council for a considerable amount of time, is about developing policy. You talk about accountability, but we as members within this council, we are all accountable for the budget. Cabinet might be the ones that put it together, Cabinet might be the ones that present it to council, but we in turn, in having that vote, and voting for or against that budget, we are taking responsibility on behalf of the people who elected us to do that. So I want to give members an even bigger voice in terms of feeding into that process, so we all feel that we have some form of ownership of part of that. Or, as you say, you know, because I think you're quite right here that one of the problems we've got here is that local authorities have only existed for the last sort of 10 years to deliver cuts to local people. But I envisage this actual policy, this change in the way we do scrutiny, will give members the chance to say how the council can spend its money. And equally, if you're not happy with the budget, this gives members more of an opportunity to stand up and say, these are the things I don't want to see in the budget, all right, and give people the power to do that. You talk about the consistent approach. Just to go back to one of the 4 fundamental principles of scrutiny, to be led by independent-minded people who take responsibility for their role. I think it's absolutely fantastic that each of the thematic scrutiny committees are taking control of their own destiny and deciding how they want to do scrutiny. I do not see myself as a dictator of scrutiny. I see myself as an arbiter, as somebody who opens up processes and gives people opportunities. You're quite right that different scrutiny committees are taking a slightly different route or a slightly different tack in doing this. A report has been sent to you, Councillor Croot, that lists what each of the different scrutiny committees, how they are actually doing this. So I don't have that at the top of my head, but it should be in your email box that says this. But yeah, you know, the opposition may believe that the chair of scrutiny should be a dictator, but I believe my job is about empowering members and giving them choices. Thank you, Chair.
Could I ask councillors to please sit and listen to who is speaking and not chitter-chatter? Councillor Marshall, please.
Thanks, Chair. The relationship between Cabinet and the Overview and Scrutiny Committee is fundamental to the constitution of this council. Anybody who's read the constitution of the council in any detail will be able to see the important role that scrutiny plays. So quite simply, I just want to ask the question of the Chair of the Over Scrutiny Management Board, which Cabinet members have refused his request on behalf of the Management Board to attend the Overview and Scrutiny committees and engage in a meaningful discussion over some of the cuts to services in this council.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. You asked this question at the last Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Management Board, and we are preparing a report that details which Cabinet members have said yes and which Cabinet members have said no. That will be coming shortly. I don't have that list to hand, as I know, as every single Cabinet member has not given me a specific report, has not been given me a specific answer, but I have conveyed that when you initially asked this, I conveyed this to Cabinet, and they know about it. And I know different scrutiny committees who are doing this in a slightly different way, or working with Cabinet members in different ways, in the best way they see fit. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkes.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm, I may not have notified Craig yet, but I am more than happy to attend scrutiny meetings. I'm not so sure if my predecessor ever did.
Thank you. There's nobody else registered to speak. Can I ask the Council to note the report, please? Item number 12, Annual Report of the Standards Committee. Can I invite Joan Nicholson, Chair of the Standards Committee, to present the annual report, please?
Thank you, Chair. I am pleased to present the annual report of the Standards Committee for the period of 21-22. The report sets out the membership of the committee and includes the 2 new independent members will recall that Alan Fletcher and Kayleigh Louise Wilson were appointed by Council with effect from the 22nd of September 2022 for a 2-year term. Both Alan and Kayleigh have completed their induction training and have been supporting the monitoring officer with standards issues from the outset. The committee work programme, which is consistent with the terms of reference set out in the report at paragraph 12, is attached at Appendix 2 to the report. The committee has continued to monitor standards and governance issues nationally. This includes an update on the government's long-awaited response to the Committee in Standards in Public Life, the report on local government ethics standards. The government has indicated that it will be consulting the sector in relation to some of the recommendations arise out of the CSPL report, and committee looks forward to responding to such consultation at the appropriate time. In the respect of complaints, members will see from the report that the position is relatively consistent when compared with the previous year. In 2021-22, there were 49 complaints compared with 48 in 2021. There has been a slight increase in the number of complaints referred to local resolution, with 20 being referred in 21-22 compared with 16 in the previous year. Local resolution may include training, mediation, provision of guidance, and where appropriate, a requirement for members to apologise. During the period, there was 1 standards hearing panel in November 2021, which considered complaints against a town councillor. The panel concluded that there had been a breach of the Code of Conduct and required the member to provide a written apology to the complainants and complete training. With the committee's agreement, an online version of the complaints form was launched in April 2022. This will hopefully make it easier for the people to submit complaints. The form is still available to complete by hand and in large print to ensure its accessibility to all. Looking ahead, the committee has agreed a work programme for 22-23, which includes the standing agenda items, as well as a review of the arrangements for the local determination procedure. The work programme will continue to be a living document, which will be updated to reflect any developments within the committee's remit throughout the year. Finally, I would like to thank the monitoring officer and her team for the continued hard work with the committee in assisting to ensure that high standards are achieved by all local members. I ask the Council to note the report.
Thank you. Do any members have any questions on the report? Can I ask the Council to note the report? Item 13, motion on notice. Colleagues, I move this motion today with great sadness, but also with great admiration for Her Majesty. I felt it appropriate for us all to come together in the chambers and have the opportunity to formally express our deepest regret and grief at the death of Her Majesty the Queen, and mark the late Sovereign's exemplary service to the nation and reflect upon her legacy. We were all greatly saddened to hear of the passing of Her Majesty as Britain's longest-serving monarch. The Queen demonstrated extraordinary devotion to her duties and to the people she served. She was an important figurehead for the UK during a reign of more than 70 years, which saw unprecedented changes to our country and way of life. The Queen travelled more widely than any other monarch, and this included many visits to County Durham. I am sure that all those who met her, whether in the early years of her reign or more recently, will have fond memories of her visit. Whilst the national mourning period has now ended, we must remember the royal family continues to mourn the loss of their loved one, and our most heartfelt sympathy goes out to His Majesty the King and other members of the royal family. At this time, God bless the Queen, God save the King.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to second this motion, and in doing so, I would like to say, Your Majesty, thank you for your 70 years of dedicated, loyal service to your country and the Commonwealth. May you now rest in peace. God save the King.
Thank you, John. I am now going to invite the Leader and Deputy Leader of the Council to offer their condolence, followed by each group leader and then any other member who wishes to speak on the motion. Councillor Amanda Hopgood, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I haven't got anything written. I think for most people in here, the Queen is all we've ever known. There are very few people who can remember a time before the Queen, and we'll all have our own personal views and our own personal remembrance of what she was to us. And mine goes back to 1977, so I'm showing my age, when she came to County Durham to celebrate a Silver Jubilee. And we went from primary school to watch her on the balcony in the town hall. Fast forward 35 years, and probably one of the biggest privileges ever was to have lunch with her at Durham Castle to celebrate a Golden Jubilee. And then, like many members in here, we've had both the honour and privilege to attend the Royal Garden Party. And that, again, is something that most of us will never forget. But for me, she was a mum, and she was a grandma and a great-grandma. And I'm leaving now to go to a funeral of another mum, grandma and great-grandma, who was born in the same year and died on the same day. So God bless the Queen.
Councillor Richard Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Since we learned of the passing of Her Majesty the Queen almost 2 weeks ago, we have heard hundreds of tributes to her. So what do we feel now? Well, I feel sadness at losing our Queen, who reigned for 70 years, a constant and reassuring presence as the head of state and of our country, coupled with gratitude for all those years of faithful service to our nation and the wider Commonwealth. I remember her local links to the county, to the Strathmere estate in Upper Teesdale through her mother's family, her visits for the Jubilees in 1977, 2002 for the Golden Jubilee when she toured the region by train, 10 years ago in 2012 when she attended a lunch at Durham Castle that I was privileged to attend. And also those more mundane events in the life of our county, like visiting a council house in the then new town of Newton Aycliffe in 1960, or returning to Newton Aycliffe to open the Fujitsu factory in 1991. So thank you, Your Majesty, and rest in peace.
Thank you. Councillor Alan Shield.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the Durham Group members, and probably all of the full council membership, I'd like to make this tribute to the extraordinary reign of this unique monarch. Queen Elizabeth II, showing inspiring commitment to provide care, compassion and duty of selfless dedication to all of her subjects during her reign of more than 7 decades, which is unlikely to be surpassed. Our heartfelt condolences to His Majesty King Charles III and all the royal family. There are few words that can install the grief and feelings of sorrow of the whole nation, the Commonwealth, if not the entire world. But if I were permitted to actually use the words of Her Majesty in her personal tribute to her husband, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, when she said, "You were my steadfast and stay throughout the 73 years of our marriage." Your Majesty, you were our stay and steadfast throughout your entire reign of 70 years. You will be sorely missed, but never forgotten and affectionately known forever as the Queen. May God bless and keep you, ma'am. Rest in peace, and thank you for everything.
Thank you. Councillor John Shuttleworth.
Thank you, Chairman. I had the privilege of being in the presence of the Queen some 10 years ago in the castle down in town, and she was just a few feet away from me, and I felt quite humbled. And I think she'd be a big loss to the country, a big loss to the world, really. And God bless the Queen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Liz Madison.
I watched the funeral of Queen Elizabeth along with millions of other people, and I was visibly upset, and I think most of the country were upset to lose the Queen. I think the funeral itself and just the pieces of history that were presented along the way show the wonderful memories that Queen Elizabeth has left us all. God save the King.
Thank you. Councillor Karen Harley.
Through you, Chair. I'd like to just offer our condolences to Her Majesty the King. And that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carl Marshall.
Thanks, Chair. On behalf of the Labour Group, I'd like to formally put on record our thanks to the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The service she gave to our country and the Commonwealth as a whole is on a level never ever seen before and unlikely to ever see again. Chair, before sort of passing on to Councillor Simon Hennig, who's going to share some of his experiences of his meeting with the Queen, I'd like to pass on our group's condolences to His Majesty King Charles III and the rest of the royal family, and in doing so, pass on our very best wishes and a big County Durham good luck to our new King as he takes on this new role, and confirm our full support for the motion tabled at full council this morning. Councillor Hennig.
Councillor Simon Hennig, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Marshall, for allowing me the opportunity to speak this morning. As leader of the Council for more than 12 years, I would like to pay tribute to Her late Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II. Her Majesty always conducted herself with the utmost integrity, dignity and respect, and her devotion to duty lasted throughout the 7 decades of her reign. This was very clear internationally, nationally and locally on her many visits to County Durham. It was my great pleasure to meet Her Majesty 10 years ago with others when we had the privilege of having lunch with her at the Diamond Jubilee lunch held at Durham Castle during the Diamond Jubilee tour, an occasion which was co-hosted by Durham County Council and Durham University. It was immediately clear that Her Majesty had a deep knowledge, warmth and affection for the area as we talked about County Durham with the then Vice-Chancellor of the University, Bishop of Durham and then Chairman of Durham County Council. As I recall, conversation ranged from the attractions of Beamish Museum to the Commonwealth and the rapid technological advances that had taken place during her reign. I also know from having spoken with many more who met with Her Majesty on her many previous visits to County Durham, the warmth and respect which was always displayed and the memories that will always be retained. Her Majesty was loved and respected by people throughout County Durham. Throughout her 70-year reign of exceptional public service, she set an example to us all. May she rest in peace. God save the King.
Thank you. Councillor Jobling.
Thank you, Chair. My first memories of the Queen were when I was 8, and I can remember being hauled up on the back of a lorry to sing at a concert that was put on in our street. And up until then, I think I might have been totally unaware that we had this lovely lady with this crown, you know, and so all through my life, I've followed the Queen. She has left a hole in here as far as I'm concerned. But one thing that shows her popularity is my granddaughter, who's 28, has been absolutely following this and crying and totally distraught. And she sent me a text the other day. And she said, Grandma, 5.1 billion people in the world watch the funeral. That is 63.7% of the world population. My goodness, there will be never another lady like that lady. May she rest in peace. God save the King.
Do any of the members wish to speak on the motion? Lavarty.
Thank you for the opportunity. I wasn't going to speak at all, but another side to Her Majesty. I was brought up because my father was born 3 days before, on the 18th, and she was born on the 21st of April. And my parents later on married on the 21st of April. And we had that connection. And a lot of years later, I was very young, and a few days into being vice chairman of Sedgefield District Council, and the chair went to the opening of Jiu-Jitsu, and I went to the castle for lunch and was to meet Her Majesty, and she came with Prince Charles, and, you know, with keep quiet, and she'll move on quickly. And she stopped, and I thought, So I said a few words, and I also mentioned that I was from Newton Aycliffe. And she got hold of my hand again and very quietly said, so you're from where I've been this morning? I said, yes, Mum. And she says, it was really ugly, wasn't it? And then give me a little wink and moved on, and I've remembered that ever from this day. So she had a really good sense of humour. So I really will miss her, and good luck to King Charles III. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sutton-Lloyd.
I had the pleasure to meet Her Majesty as well in 2012 at the ceremony at Durham as one of the people in the county who's got a small award. I couldn't believe that I was there. To this day, can still hear my grandmother's words, who was a great royalist, saying, well, our David, bonny lad, what are you doing there? And it was such a privilege to be there, and it's been such a privilege. I, as a young lad of 5, was outside the palace gates and was picked up by the police ladies, and they took all the smaller children and brought us right round to the front by the gate so we could see the golden carriage go by. I was frightened to death that somebody was going to take my egg and tomato sandwiches and the orange, right? And all through my life, I've had this wonderful woman who's been, I think we all agree, a tremendous example to all of us. God save the Queen.
Thank you. Councillor Stelling.
Thank you, Chairman. I've had the good fortune to serve on this council for 21 years. Some might say it's a privilege, some might not say it's a privilege. And I've had the good fortune during that period of time to meet the Queen on 3 occasions. The first one I remember was at the gala, when she opened the gala, and me and my wife, she says, "This is not the gala." I says, "No, this is the library. The Queen's coming down to the library as well." And I opened the door for her at the library. Second one, as other companions have said, at the castle, had lunch. John and I were only, we could have touched her, John, if we turned, couldn't we? It was that close to us. And then the third one, I had the good fortune to go to the garden party down in London. What a day out that was. I also, in my capacity chairman, as chairman of the council, I also had the good fortune to, he was Prince Charles then, but I shook his hand at Bishop Auckland when he came to open the Spanish gala there, and it was a fantastic time. But the best, I suppose, was on Saturday when my 2 girls wanted to go down with their grandchildren to London to place some flowers for the Queen, not in the queue. So we went down by train on Saturday to Green Park and laid our flowers and everything on the green. Councillor Shield will have the good fortune to see the photographs when we go home this afternoon. Thank you very much.
There's nobody else registered to speak. Colleagues, I would like to thank everyone for their contribution to the motion this morning. In doing so, we seek your support for the motion by affirmation. Thank you. That concludes today's business. Before the meeting finishes, I would like to thank everyone for taking part and those members of the public and the media who have watched this meeting. Thank you for your attendance.